from the Action Network at Action Network HQ Super Bowl 55 show, folks. We're treating it like every Sunday for the past 20 weeks. We are not getting in our heads. We are not going to be nervous. It is a regular Sunday with a loaded slate of bets from the Action Network crew. I am Chad Millman. You can get everything we're talking about in the app. It's free. It's award-winning. Analysis, picks, data, information. Darren Ravel, Katie Rich Creek on the Action Network news desk. We are brought to you by 888 Sport. Convince me from 888 Sport on the Action Network HQ handle. I got Sean Corner. I got Matthew Friedman. I got Chris Raybon. We're talking skill position props. We're talking quarterback props. We're talking sides. We're talking totals. We're talking long shots. I'm going to convince the crew of my own bet that I want them to make. Sean Corner, you're up first on Convince Me, brought to you by 888 Sport. What is the skill position prop I need to take from your perspective?
So I love getting Leonard Fournette to have the most rushing yards in the game. A lot of books around the plus 180 range. And plus, this is the only type of prop we get for the Super Bowl. So that's reason number one why I love it. But the reasons why I think this is going to win is, his rushing prop is 48.5 yards, which is 10 yards higher than his teammate Ronald Jones and 20 yards higher than both KC backs. So, just by going over his rushing prop, he'll be pretty close to winning this market altogether. But, his main competition is teammate Ronald Jones. I think it's clear after last week, Ronald Jones racked up 16 rushing yards on 10 attempts. I think the Packers knew that the Bucs were telegraphing they were running the ball whenever he was on the field. So I think the Bucs will lean on playoff Lenny today. I think his ability in the passing game as well will keep the defense honest. This is a great matchup. The Chiefs are the second worst defense in terms of DVOA versus the run. So love the matchup in general. And then, the second part of this prop I love is it gives us a chance to fade both KC running backs. We talked about it on the Thursday show. It's a brutal matchup. I doubt the Chiefs are going to test this number one ranked defense in the Bucs against the run. So, I don't like either running back hitting their ceiling. They should split rush attempts here. So, I ran a sim on this, of course, and I have the fair odds for this being plus 135 for Leonard Fournette. So give me the value here at plus 180.
Of course you ran a sim on Leonard Fournette and whether or not he'd have the most rushing yards in the game. Matthew Friedman, you have been disgusting me all season long. Let's see what you can bring right now.
Chad, I really do hope to discuss you here. That in part is what I was really hoping to do with this prop. And I should say in honor of Chris Raybon and Sean Corner and Kadarrell Hodge, I yet once more am taking the under on an almost irrelevant wide receiver, Demarcus Robinson, under 1.5 receptions. Sammy Watkins is returning, and in the playoffs, Robinson has actually played behind Byron Pringle, who still might play ahead of him in the Super Bowl because Robinson was on the COVID list all of this past week as a close contact and was unable to practice. In the conference championship, he played 42 snaps and wasn't targeted at all. In the divisional round, he had just 1 reception. In the Super Bowl last year, he played 39 snaps, 0 targets. He has a tough matchup on the perimeter with cornerbacks Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean. This is an easy under at 1.5 for me. It's minus 115. I think you could bet it to minus 150, but honestly, I would go even further than that if necessary. I love the under here. I honestly don't think he's going to catch a pass.
Well, in the words of Chris Raybon, to any juice,
yes,
we would take this prop. By the way, I remember Demarcus Robinson props from last Super Bowl. I remember being on Demarcus Robinson. Raybon, I think that was a huge prop that you loved last year, was Demarcus Robinson and corner. Demarcus Robinson under receptions. I remember cashing that ticket. Raybon, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to go with an over here. So Leonard Fournette, Sean kind of mentioned that he has a good chance at winning his rushing prop for the most yards in a game. I love his receiving prop as well. Over 3.5 receptions. You can still get it at minus 135 at BetMGM. And this is a player who in the 3 postseason games, 4, 5, and 5 receptions, he's run 79, 68, and 65% of routes per dropback. And as I wrote up in my Super Bowl matchups column on actionnetwork.com, I think that the Bucs are going to actually throw to Fournette on early downs a lot more. He's number 3 in the postseason in targets on the team in early down. So he's been a big part of their passing game, not just as an outlet option, but as a main go-to guy for Tom Brady. When you look at this Chiefs defense and Steve Spagnuolo, they funnel the ball away from wide receivers. They have Tyrann Mathieu to put on either Cameron Brate or Rob Gronkowski. Last matchup, he was on Brate a lot. Who does that leave as a guy that, is going to be reliable in the passing game? I think it's Fournette. I think he crushes this prop. I would bet it up to even over 4 receptions at standard juice.
All right, so Corner, let me see if I can finally get you to say something mean about somebody on this show. Let me see if I can get you to really go after what Friedman has done with Demarcus Robinson, because it is such a weak move to decide you're going to go under on the player nobody's thinking about and say bet it up to any juice when you and Raybon are going out on a limb and making real bets here. Tell me why I should just ignore Matthew Friedman. Well,
first of all, Friedman slammed me for taking the under on Scotty Miller on Thursday, and this is essentially the same scenario. And also, I agree with Friedman. Demarcus Robinson should end up with 0 catches here, but Demarcus Robinson always ends up with 2 catches in every game. He's always used way more than he should. I think they should use Mecole Hardman a lot more, but Demarcus Robinson always gets the playing time and always racks up like 2 catches exactly. So I don't like the prop either.
All right. You know what I'm going to do right now? I've already made my decision. Unless, Friedman, you feel like you need to defend yourself.
No, it's fine. Sean can be wrong if he wants to.
Oh, man. I am going with Leonard Fournette plus 180 over to lead the to be the highest rushing total in the game, to be the leading rusher in the game. I think Leonard Fournette might have MVP value. I think Raybon is right. He's probably going to go over 3.5 receptions. I like him having the most rushing yards in the game. Give me Leonard Fournette, most rushing yards in the game, plus 180. Here we go. Check mark. Darren Ravel, it is time for news on the 8s from 888 Sport at the Action Network News Desk.
Yes, it is, Chad, and we are looking at big bets to start. Obviously, we see the biggest bets during the Super Bowl. Mattress Mac, I'm sure he's happy, still leads a $3.46 million bet at DraftKings. Flew to Colorado, made that bet. Bucks plus 3.5. DraftKings has exposure now on the Bucks. They're one of 2 books that would like the Chiefs to win. The second book is BetMGM because they took a $2.3 million bet on Bucks plus 3.5. And all 3 bets, the top 3 bets were on the Bucks until moments ago when William Hill got a bet for $1.16 million on the Chiefs money line minus 155. That is now the 3rd biggest bet here on Super Bowl Sunday.
All right, so the majority of the big bets have been coming in the Bucks, and we're going to get to the sides and the total because I do think it's going to be an interesting conversation about which way this group is leaning, about which way professional bettors have been leaning since this game was posted at 3.5 2 weeks ago. Our next topic, we are going to go to QB props. In case you haven't heard, 2 very high-profile quarterbacks playing in this game. One considered the GOAT, has his legacy on the line, according to Chris Raybon at Action Network on actionnetwork.com. Patrick Mahomes going for his 2nd title in a row. Corner, give me a quarterback prop.
So I love Patrick Mahomes to throw for over 66.5 passing yards in the first quarter. This is another prop that we'll only get for the Super Bowl. That's why I love it, first of all. But I think the market's a little bit too low here. When you look at the Chiefs' pass rate in the first quarter this season at 68%, which is by far the highest in the league. And then they fall to 10th in the league with a 62% rate over the course of the game. I think this makes sense because, as the Chiefs build up their lead early in the game, they'll become a little more run heavy towards the end while they pad their lead, and it leads for their passing rate to drop a bit. So I think they're going to come out firing in the first quarter here, especially against the Bucks. I mean, why even test against their run defense? So looking back at all 17 games this season, Mahomes has gone over this number in 12 of those 17 games. That's a 71% clip. His projected median today of 330 yards across the market is 12 yards higher than his median on the season. So it's pretty clear that, if you expect them to go higher over the course of the game, why wouldn't the first quarter be even higher? So it's an even stronger case to take the over 66.5 passing yards for the first quarter.
All right. Well, this is interesting because I know that everyone on this call, on this show here, might have different opinions on Mahomes and what he can do today. Friedman, what do you got?
I don't actually have a problem with Sean's take on the passing, but the rushing for Mahomes, I think, is going to be a little muted. I'm going under 19.5 yards rushing. And you can bet it right now at plus 105. I would take it down to minus 125. Mahomes is a good runner. He ran a little more than usual this season. Historically, he has run more in the playoffs, but the Bucs have a good defensive line, one of the best in the league. They're pretty good at containing quarterbacks and keeping them in the pocket. And Mahomes has that turf toe injury, which has limited him so far in the postseason. In 2 games in the playoffs, 5 and 14 yards rushing. If you think the Chiefs are going to win, and I do, that gives Mahomes the opportunity for some kneel downs at the end of the game. That, of course, came into play last year in a very big way, might come into play again this year.
That was the story of the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
Was Mahomes being at 44 rushing yards and his total being, I think, at 29 or 28, and him kneeling down so many times and losing so many yards that anyone who had the under in his rushing total actually cashed that. It was a huge, huge $1 million swing. I got to say, I know it. I hate it. I kind of like Friedman's under 19.5. Raybon, see if you can beat that.
So for quarterbacks, I'm sticking with Patrick Mahomes, and I'm going over 41.5 pass attempts, plus 105 at BetMGM. First of all, this is a prop that he cleared in more than half of his starts this year. He had 42 or more attempts in 9 of 17 games. But you look at the Tampa Bay Bucs, you look at Andy Reid and how he's game planned. This is a Chiefs team that has come out and thrown the ball against, defenses that are good against the run. They'll run a little more against, defenses that are bad against the run. Well, this Tampa Bay defense, number 1 against the run. Kansas City called 76% passes in the first matchup. 50 throws, 49 from Mahomes, and we also had one from Travis Kelce. So, there's actually a little more of upside than maybe baked into looking at Mahomes' first game, but 50 pass attempts for the Chiefs in that game, 54 called passes when you add in 2 sacks and 2 scrambles by Mahomes. That was a season high. There's no reason to change the game plan up. He threw for 462 yards, completing 37 of 49. That this is the game plan you have to play against the Bucs. You don't want to start running on early downs. That's why we're all low on Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams. So Patrick Mahomes over 41.5 pass attempts at plus 105.
All right. So what everyone is saying the same thing, basically. High net yardage, high passing attempts, low rushing attempts. I hate to say this. Friedman, you're already like lifting your eyebrows, I know, because I got to go with Friedman. I like under 19.5 rushing yards for Patrick Mahomes. I am doubling down on a prop that gave me a heart attack last year when I did have under Mahomes rushing yards, but I think he is incredibly hobbled. There's been a report that he needs toe surgery in the offseason. I like Mahomes under 19.5 rushing. It also correlates to another prop we're going to talk about later. But give me 19.5, under 19.5 rushing yards. Friedman, I love it. There you go, buddy. Katie Rich Creek, what's happening on the Action Network news desk?
A lot of people are wondering what other props they should be betting. And we have a lot more on the site and in the app. If you read one story today, you have to make it our compilation file of a bunch of player props from these 3 guys and other analysts on our staff. That's again in the app and on the site. But we also have one feature that I wanted to quickly highlight that's on the site, and that is this new Super Bowl feature in our Action Labs product. It has 2 primary functions. One, if you're a subscriber, you can see the edges based on these 3 guys' projections. And also, if you're not a subscriber, there is a really beautiful free function where you can shop prop lines. If anyone is trying to compare lines across different books, you understand the pain of trying to figure out how people are categorizing certain props. If you use this tool, you can easily find them across all the major books. Super underrated feature. So just wanted to quickly highlight that for anyone looking for more prop action.
Well, listen, what I also love is that in that story that you're talking about, which is crushing right now, we have more props about Bradley Pinion, the Bucs punter, than we do about Tom Brady, the Bucs quarterback. That's how deep our analysis goes. Let's keep it rolling. Talking about sides and totals, Sean Corner. This is the heart of the matter. This is what everybody is betting their millions of dollars on. What do you got?
So I'm going with Bucks 3 here. This is easily the best QB matchup in Super Bowl history. And I'm willing to admit, Patrick Mahomes is clearly the best quarterback in the game right now. The Chiefs are the best team. However, I'm projecting this closer to a pick 'em and have the Chiefs at -1.5. I still think the public perception is underrating the Bucks just a little bit. Maybe it's due to their week 9 and 11 losses in prime time, or their first quarter performance against this Chiefs team in week 12. But when you look at the overall picture, the Bucks have a plus 137 point differential compared to Chiefs plus 111. Yet, they have 3 fewer wins than the Chiefs. And I think it did really come down to one score luck. Tampa Bay went 4-3 in one score games, whereas the Chiefs went 9-0 in one score games. And I think, especially if you look at the second half of the season, the Chiefs definitely let teams hang around for a little bit too long. And I think that all started, back in week 6, they lost Mitchell Schwartz. So they were down 3 starting O-linemen at that point in time. And that's why I think the loss of Eric Fisher could finally catch up to them. This is the 4th starting O-lineman they've lost this season. I realize any quarterback can overcome this. It's Patrick Mahomes. But it's bad timing going up against this Tampa Bay defensive line. They've generated the 3rd most pressure on the season. They just got stud defensive tackle Vita Vea back. I think they could pose some problems. As we saw in the NFC Championship game, they were able to sack Aaron Rodgers 5 times, just rushing 4 or fewer. So if they can have a similar performance up front, I think they can pull off the upset. And I'm not worried about this Bucks offense. They've scored 30 plus points in 6 straight games. I think they're the only team that can keep up with the Chiefs. So I love them pulling off the ups here. I'm taking them +3, technically at home. I'm not factoring in any home field advantage, but if there does happen to be any, that's just going to be icing on the cake as far as I'm concerned.
My only issue with what you're saying is the insult to Rex Grossman and Peyton Manning as being the greatest quarterback matchup in Super Bowl history. Friedman, what do you got?
Well, unsurprisingly, I'm on the other side of this. I'm going Chiefs -3. When we did the live show 2 weeks ago after the conference championships, I believe that Raybon was on the Bucks. However, I think that he has potentially had a change of heart. So in order to give my side a better chance of convincing you and to leave some meat on the bone for Raybon, I will be relatively brief. I see 3 big things going for the Chiefs. First, as Sean mentioned there, home field advantage for the Bucks, I think is pretty much non-existent in this spot. And Andy Reid, since he has joined the Chiefs in 2013, they have been the most profitable team in the league on the road against the spread. 41-24-1 against the spread on the road. He always has his team ready to play. Secondly, the Bucks, I don't believe they have a corner who can hang with Tyreek Hill. We saw that in week 12. And their defense is weakest against tight ends. They're number 25 in pass defense DVOA against the position. So I think they're going to struggle with Travis Kelce in addition to Tyreek Hill. And then third, the strength of the Bucs offense is their wide receivers, but the Chiefs are specifically schemed to take production away from wide receivers on the perimeter and downfield so they can limit the Bucs where they are the best. And I think that means Brady as a consequence will have to funnel the offense through tight ends and through running backs. And that is a big tactical win for the Chiefs to force the Bucs away from their playmakers. I've been on the Chiefs again for the past 2 weeks. I think this line should be closer to 5 than the 3 where we see it. I know that's aggressive. I know I'm opposite smart people like Sean, but I got Raybon on my side, and that gives me just a little bit of hope.
I hate when you are on the public side. It drives me nuts. I'm going to hate it more if Raybon is on the public side.
I mean, you know me, I've been on the Bucks the whole postseason, really the whole season, to be honest. But, doing my final deep dive on this game, kind of breaking down every matchup, I posted a big article on actionnetwork.com where I look at all the matchups, offensive line, secondary, linebackers, just everyone and how they match up. I just feel that the Bucks are going to have to play a perfect game to win this. I think the line is actually relatively correct at Chiefs -3. I thought, the line, that's what the line should be. There was a little value at 3.5 on the Bucks, but if we're at just at 3, I'm just picking the team that I think is going to win the game. And that's the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think a big reason is Steve Spagnuolo and what he can do on defense. Friedman kind of mentioned it. You have the team that's been number 1 or number 2 the last 2 years since he joined them in terms of limiting yards to wide receivers. Antonio Brown had 11 yards on 3 targets in the first matchup. Mike Evans had 3 catches in the first matchup. Chris Godwin had 8 for 97, but one of those came on a 44-yarder. His other 7 catches went for 53 yards. L'Jarius Sneed, who's going to cover him in a slot, has allowed 5 yards per target. So then you have to look at the tight ends, Gronkowski and Brake. Well, Brake's been banged up this whole week, and Tyrann Mathieu is going to cover one of those 2 guys. So you're essentially forcing Tampa Bay to funnel offense through one of Cameron Brate or the ghost of Rob Gronkowski, who's caught 9 of his last 22 targets, and Leonard Fournette, which is not optimal. And then you look at Patrick Mahomes, even if he's pressured, he's still performing at a level that a league average quarterback with no pressure would love to perform at. And because Kansas City is so well schemed, because they're not even going to try to run the ball on this defense, you're still going to have to deal with 45 to 50 dropbacks from Mahomes. And that kind of offsets, some of the issues that may happen from, a sack here or, throwaway there, because Kansas City is they're just going to keep coming at you. And it's hard to stop those guys for, 50 plays. And that pass rush also could start to wear down a little bit as you get deeper into the game. So I just think that Tampa Bay has to play a perfect game. They scored 21 points of turnovers against the Saints. They scored 14 points of turnovers against the Packers to win by 5 with a free touchdown before the end of the half.
Throw in the towel, Chad.
They don't get the touchdown. We're not even talking about Tampa Bay right here.
Honest to God, it's like
Kansas City, baby.
He's filibustering.
He, honest to God, like he wants me to take Kansas City so badly, and
I just think they're gonna win.
It's such a hard game to handicap because it has been stuck at 3 for so long. And the wise guys took the Bucs at 3.5. It's just been sitting there. I will say that the majority of the wise guys are on the Bucs. There's not a lot of sort of professional attention coming in on Kansas City right now. And this is the heart of the matter. Like, this is where everybody is trying to figure out what to do. I'm having a really hard time with the Bucs defensive line being as healthy as it's been all year, and the Chiefs offensive line being in complete and total shambles. And I do think that catches up with them at some point. And so for me, I kind of feel like this is Bucs on the money line. I'll take the 3 if Corner wants to give me the 3, but I like the Bucs on the money line in this game. So I'm going to have to side with Sean Corner right now. And I'm going to have to go. I hate going against Raybon. I don't care going against Friedman, but I hate going against Raybon.
Yeah,
it makes
I can't
me
believe
so sad.
Raybon, you abandoned me. I thought we were going to be on the Bucs together. What happened, man?
Hey, I'm an honest man. I did the research and I switched the sides, man. It just came down to a half a point. I mean, the line should be 3, in my opinion. You have a closer to pick 'em, so I guess there is some little distance. But the flow chart for me is Patrick Mahomes. That team wins.
Yeah, I know. It's a really tough call. It's a totally tough call. No one mentioned this was a sides and totals segment. No one mentioned any totals. Did anyone feel strongly about the total? It opened to 57.5, highest total ever, beating out the Patriots and the Falcons by half a point, now at 55.5. Quickly, does anyone have anything on the total?
I'm on the under, but it's not a strong position. I think it should be around 55.5. I bet it at 57. So
got it.
It's where it should be, I think.
Yeah, I think the defensive edges in the game might, like, the under may be like a tad more likely, but there's no major value. Like, I actually have it right at 56, so I can't say there's value either way.
Yeah, I think at 55.5, I lean towards the over, especially since I like the Bucs. I think the Bucs can only win if it's a higher scoring game. I don't really think they're going to hold the Chiefs to 30 points or less or anything, but I think if you like the Bucs, you want to correlate that with the over.
All right, Katie, we're going back to you at the news desk. You got anything?
I do. Lots of Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes talk, but this is Tom Brady's 10th Super Bowl, and it's the first one he's not favored in since his first Super Bowl appearance, almost 20 years ago. He has a losing record against the spread in Super Bowls, going 4 for 5, but you have to keep in mind that he was favored in 8 of those 9 games. Over the last decade, generally, he is 8-0 against the spread when he's listed both as an underdog and when the public is fading him, both of which are true here today. So you're in good hands with your pick on the show today, Chad.
Ooh, I like it. I like when Katie is on my side. I like being against Friedman. So in the end, the Raybon thing is a little bit of a wash. All right.
You, Friedman.
let's talk about long shots. We're adding a long shot segment because everybody wants to talk about the long shot bets. This has more attention than anything else during the show, during the game. People want to talk about MVPs. They want to talk about where they can get the biggest value for the lowest amount of money. Corner, you go first.
So I'm hedging my bets a little bit here and taking Travis Kelce to win the MVP at 14-1. Plus, this is correcting my mistake of betting the under on him in the AFC Championship. Huge mistake. So I'm going to just bet on his ceiling here, make up for that. But, if the Chiefs win, obviously Patrick Mahomes is likely to win the MVP award. But, since they run the offense through Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, they have these explosion games where I think one of them does have the potential to steal the MVP away from Mahomes. And I looked, there was about 3 or 4 games I think Kelce would have won MVP this year. So I would think this would be closer to 9-1, 10-1. So I love the value we get here at 14-1.
All right, Friedman, what do you got?
So Sean likes Fournette to lead the game in rushing. You do as well. You pick that. And Raybon likes Fournette as a receiver. Let's just leverage that and go with a bet on him to win MVP. If the Bucs are to win this game, I think it could be in the situation that you outlined where their defense, that defensive line just wrecks that offensive line, which is in shambles. They're able to slow the Chiefs down. So maybe we see a little bit of a lower scoring game with the Bucs slowing everything down on offense also and attacking the Chiefs where they are weakest, which is in their run defense and running back pass defense. And in the playoffs, Fournette has averaged over 20 opportunities per game. If he gets that in the Super Bowl, he could easily have over 100 yards from scrimmage, maybe multiple touchdowns. And if that happens, he will be live as an MVP candidate. Now, I should say, if Damian Williams didn't win the MVP last year, and if James White didn't win it a few years before that, then it almost certainly won't happen for Fournette. But I mean, we're taking him at 25 or 30-1. That's why it's a long shot.
I hate the fact that I love this idea. I hate it. Raybon, give me something better. Just please.
Well, I got to shout out my Action Network betting podcast co-host Stuckey because I know he's on some Sammy Watkins props. And in his honor, I'm going with Sammy Watkins to lead the game in receiving at 16-1. Sammy Watkins with the Chiefs during the regular season in his career, 47.4 yards per game. In the playoffs, 92.8. He essentially doubles his production in the playoffs. Last postseason, he finished for leading the team in one of the games, and he finished second in 2 others, including 7 yards from the lead in the Super Bowl last year. The Bucs are bottom 5 in terms of yardage, schedule adjusted yardage allowed to number 2 wide receivers at 63.4 yards per game. Only the Falcons, Eagles, Lions, and Dolphins allowed more. And if you look at that game, the first matchup, in the first quarter when Tyreek Hill goes off, they were looking at Carlton Davis. They had no Jamel Dean in that game. Carlton Davis, a lot of one-on-ones. Once they adjusted, Robinson, Hardman, and Watkins combined for 40% of the targets. Kelce for the game only had 17% of the targets, even though he caught out 8 passes. Remember, there were 50 passes thrown. So Sammy Watkins, I think, is going to step right back into a very important role in this game, and he's going to be the guy getting single coverage. Give me Sammy Watkins to lead the game in receiving at 16-1.
Listen, this is the most disgusting thing I've done all year. I am sick to my stomach that I'm doing this, but it's Leonard Fournette, guys. It's Leonard Fournette as the long shot MVP for all of the things that you told me in the first segment. It's Leonard Fournette over 3.5 receptions. It's Leonard Fournette to lead the game in rushing. It's all those things. This game is setting up as a Leonard Fournette redemption juggernaut game. Get him a big contract. See the glory in his eyes when he's been cut from Jacksonville unceremoniously, going to Tampa. He's a hero. Friedman's a hero. Friedman is like the Leonard Fournette of this show. This is a redemption tour for him. That's what I think.
It's all about the long game, Chad.
That's exactly right. All right. We're going to get to Darren in a second. Darren's going to get his last shot. But for one segment to celebrate the end of the year, I am going to convince you of the bet that I am going to go all in on, and you guys can tell me if you're with me or not. You ready? Are you ready? You guys don't know this yet because I didn't put it in the script. Over 4.5 total sacks in the game. And I kind of believe that everything we've been talking about on the show so far sets up for that. We really like the Bucs defense. We really like Leonard Fournette to be the MVP. I like the fact that Tom Brady, when he does throw, needs a long time in the pocket. I like the fact that Chris Jones is probably the only defensive weapon in the front seven for the Chiefs that scares anybody. Second most difficult defensive lineman to block, according to Pro Football Focus, after Defensive Player of the Year, Aaron Donald. On the flip side, we've talked about this. Patrick Mahomes, he is hobbled. He needs toe surgery. He is going to have more than 41 and a half passing attempts, according to Chris Raybon. This whole thing is setting up for a massive amount of sacks. Raybon's laughing at me. Corner looks like he's nice and thinking about it. Friedman, I think he's already gone on mute and has checked out completely. Corner, you go first. Tell me what you think of my bet.
I like it. I'm going with you for selfish reasons because I think this correlates well with the Bucks +3 for all the reasons I mentioned earlier. But one of the concerns when it comes to backing the Bucks today is Alex Kappa's injury. They're replacing with Aaron Stinney, so I think there could be some issues there that results in Brady getting sacked a couple times. So I'm with you on the over here.
All right, Friedman, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going with you as well. Also like Sean for selfish reasons, but I just want my boss to like me. That's really what it is. But I do agree with the logic. I think 4.5, I've bet on it. So I am with you in money and in spirit.
All right, well, that's never going to happen. Liking you is an impossibility. Raybon, what do you got?
Yeah, I like it as well. I think that you look at even the left side of the Bucks O-line in the previous matchup struggled, and that's the strong side with Ali Marpet and Donovan Smith. They struggled against Frank Clark and Chris Jones, and on the other side, I think this Bucks pass rush is going to get home a couple of times, and I think quarterbacks I think they'll be a little bit more likely to maybe take that coverage sack. You don't want to do anything crazy, so it's I like over 4.5. I can't believe we're all agreeing with you.
We're all in agreement, which means it's likely to fail. So good luck to all of you who are deciding to bet 4.5 total sacks. Darren Ravel, 888 Sport News Desk, action on the 8s. Give me some news.
Well, I'd like to agree too, since it's my employee review, even though you point out that this is 2021 and the reviews for 2020. Well, I just want to give you what percentage of the total bets are betting on Leonard Fournette at DraftKings to win Super Bowl 55 MVP so it's Mahomes, 40% of the handle at -106. Tom Brady, 27% of the handle at +190. Tyreek Hill, 7% of the handle at 11-1. Travis Kelce, 7% of the handle at 13-1. And Leonard Fournette is actually not too much of a long shot. Number 5 at 25-1, 3% of the bets and the handle.
That is 3% of brilliant people right there. And me and Friedman are both with them. Have there been any more massive bets? Do you want to summarize the massive bets on both sides before we go?
Yeah, so we have, as I said before, 3.46 million Bucks 3.5, 2.3 million on Bucks 3.5, and 1.16 million. Those are the biggest ones on the Chiefs money line. Those are the three biggest bets that we've seen. Mattress Mac told someone he was trying to get down a little bit more to set the Super Bowl record. We're not really sure what that is. We know that Billy Walters bet 3.5 million. Like, wouldn't that be hilarious if Mattress Mac bet 401,000 again to push it? That's the type of stuff that the mattress does. But and then the last thing I'll lead you with, because this is really I'm really thinking about this. PointsBet really says that they've had significant action on Tom Brady over 0.5 rushing yards. And I heard the whole Mahomes argument. The question becomes, does Tom Brady have enough yards that if he has to kneel at the end of the game, does that become an issue? Because everyone thinks that's a great value. It opened at +175. It's now down to +150, might go down even more. But I mean, Brady might have to have 8 yards in order to give you the pad at the end. So that's the one I'm really thinking about.
Corner, you want to have last word on that?
Well, hasn't Tom Brady perfected the 0-yard kneel down because he's trying to protect his career rushing yards being over 1,000 or something? I would love if Brady's doing kneel downs because it means that the Bucks covered. But yeah, I was looking at that. He is good for a sneaker to a game, so it's kind of sneaky taking the over there.
All right, listen. This has been Convince Me, brought to you by 888 Sport. Here is the roundup, and you can follow all these picks in the Action Network app. Go follow Convince Me. We have a page in the Action Network app. I like Leonard Fournette plus 180 to lead the game in rushing. I like Patrick Mahomes under 19.5 rushing yards. I like the Bucks plus 3. I really like him on the money line, but we will take the Bucks plus 3. And I like Leonard Fournette 25-1, 30-1 to win MVP plus over 4.5 sacks in the game. For Sean Corner, Matthew Friedman, Chris Raybon, Darren Ravel, Katie Rich Creek, our amazing crew of Christina Ventura, Evan Abrams, Parker Baru, Barbara Alberts. This has been Convince Me, presented by 888 Sport. Go enjoy the Super Bowl.
We're flipping switches. We should be live in a sec.
Do you want me to retweet here or anything?
Yeah, sure. We should be live. I flipped all the
Are we
switches.
live?
Hey,
All right.
everybody. How
All
are
right,
you?
listen, it's halftime of Super Bowl 55. You are looking at our Convince Me mid-game halftime live betting breakdown. Producer Evan Abrams, he's going to run down sort of the winners of the first half props. We got Sean Corner. We got Chris Raybon. We got Matthew Friedman. Little reset. Just a reminder, we're going to get to this. Two of us, Sean Corner and Chad Millman, had Bucks plus 3.5 or 3 or Bucks on the money line. Chad Millman. Two of us in our pregame Convince Me liked the Chiefs at -3. It's going to be an interesting second half. By no means am I overconfident. Am I starting to talk trash with you guys? Evan Abrams, take us through some first half props with the winners.
So the one thing you have to start with is Gronk, right? First touchdown, 18-1. 2 touchdowns, 11-1. Over receptions, over receiving yards. It's Gronk MVP right now, right? I mean, 70-1, Chad. That's what his ticket would have paid on MVP. We tweeted it out on Action. And listen, if you're holding the ticket, you're playing the video right now.
That is pretty good. Like you said, he was 11-1 for 2 touchdowns. He's got them both. He was 14-1 to score the first touchdown. He's over his yards. He's over his receptions. A couple other ones. Matthew Friedman, Patrick Mahomes is already over his 19.5 rushing yards. We hit 2 field goals in the first half. That was a big one for the wise guys. The national anthem went 2 minutes, 16 seconds. That was a big one that got everyone excited. I'm looking at my notes here. First quarter played incredibly slow. The live line, I think we're at -7.5 for the Bucks. 55 is the total. That's what it was before the game. The live line got down as far as 49.5, so it played to type. A lot of us had said, go ahead, wait till the game starts. It'll be slow. Bet the total, bet the over when you can get it after it's moved down a little bit. Corner, what do you think of the pace? What did you think of the opportunities in the first half?
So far, so good. But like you said, I am not celebrating this Bucks bet quite yet. It's not over till it's over when it comes to this Chiefs team. But so far, so good.
Did you make any big bets in the first half based on how the game was going?
No, but I think I'm looking probably to go on the over on the second half. Just I think that's the direction this game's going to go. The Bucks should be able to run the ball on this Chiefs defense like we've seen, and then the Chiefs are going to come out firing. I don't expect them to even attempt to run the ball in the second half. I think the Bucks will give them throws over the middle to Travis Kelce. I'm afraid the Bucks might play a little too soft and let the Chiefs back into it. So I think I might start hedging a little bit by betting on the over in the second half.
Evan, if we see any questions in there that you want to throw up, by all means, you should go for it. I think we lost Raybon here. Friedman, man, oh man. What the freak, dude?
Yeah, not great for Chiefs, for all of us Chiefs truthers, or not great for the people who were fading Mahomes with the rushing prop. A lot of other things have gone relatively well for the props. Like looking at Scotty Miller, fading him, that was great. Fading DeMarcus Robinson. Has that guy even been on the field? Like, a lot of different things have gone right from the prop angle, in part because the unders on props tend to be the sharp side. And this is an underwhelming game, especially in the passing that we've seen from the Chiefs, especially. But it's, as Sean said, it's not over. This feels like a game in which the Chiefs have just absolutely been walloped, and yet they're behind by only 15 points. And with the type of offense that they have, they can come back from a deficit like that, but it has been incredibly demoralizing to see what they are doing on offense, because it is basically nothing. This looks nothing like the Chiefs that we've grown accustomed to seeing in the past 3 years. And I don't know exactly what it is. I'd be curious to hear if Raybon has thoughts. Sean, Chad, you have thoughts, but this just does not seem as if they were ready to play.
Well, I'll let Raybon go because he's on the Chiefs. I'm not.
I think the Chiefs win this game. I'm betting on the Chiefs in the second half, and all right, there's a lot of pressure. I think the Bucs have gotten amazing pressure on Mahomes. I think there's been some drops. There's been some bad communication with Hardman downfield. So it's just a miserable first half passing the ball. On the other side, I think what's hurt the Chiefs is that the penalties on defense. I mean, people were talking about like 11 and a half penalties under for the game, and the Chiefs have about that much in the first half. So I think that the Chiefs clean this up. They can erase this in a hurry. Remember what happened last year. It was 20-10 with 7 minutes to go in the game. Chiefs won by 11. Don't count the Chiefs out.
Yeah, it's so early to start getting cocky about the Buccaneers winning this game. It's not too early to get cocky about already having lost Patrick Mahomes under 90 yards. It's not too cocky.
Hey, we still have those kneel downs.
Yeah, it's not too early.
I told you
about going in the wrong direction on the under penalties from Matthew Friedman. It's not too early to not feel cocky about Leonard Fournette not winning the MVP. Gronk, I think, has a better chance. All right, Raybon, you said you're already taking some Kansas City. You're going to bet Kansas City plus 7.5 in the second half?
I just bet Kansas City plus 7.5. I took them at 4.5. I just think that they make this a game. I mean, listen, Tampa Bay's played an amazing game. If they win, I wouldn't be surprised, but I know better than to count Kansas City out. And I think a lot of their mistakes have been somewhat correctable. And even with the pressure, I mean, Mahomes is making some amazing plays. I mean, there was one play where he was like falling forward and threw a bullet to Kelsey in his hands and he just dropped it. So it's like, I'm just not ready to count out KC. And I think, from a betting angle, I mean, KC closed at -3. This is an amazing opportunity to get KC at more than a touchdown. So I love KC second half.
Hey, Ev, let's be thinking about, before we sign off, some props that we need to be looking for in the second half. If you can see like the players who might be on the verge of covering, if any of you guys have that sort of at your fingertips, it would be great to do that. Corner, have you made any second half bets based on Tampa plus -7.5 and the live total of 55?
No, I haven't pulled the trigger yet. Probably once we get off air, I'm looking at some player props too, but right now I'm looking good across the board, so I'm letting it ride. I said I'm not getting cocky about Tampa Bay +3, and I'm standing true to that. But the Bradley Pinion prop on not having a punt over 54.5 yards, that's looking pretty good after his first 2 putts. Just terrible. And, unfortunately, I didn't bet that on the Chiefs punter as well. He's doing terrible. So that prop's looking good. But right now, looking good. So I don't have much to hedge right now. But if anything, I was going to look into the over.
You're going to look into the over 55 total.
On the second half, yeah.
What's the second half total right now?
28.5.
28.5. So according to our stats, which Raybon and Stuckey talked about, I believe in the second half, the average points scored, Raybon, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 11 and 17, right? 11 points in the third quarter and 17 in the fourth quarter. So that second half total is playing exactly to type. Like, this is when the games blow up. This second half, these offenses are so loose now. I do expect there to be significant fireworks Friedman, have you made any halftime bets? Have you made any live bets throughout the first half?
I'm looking. I haven't made any live bets throughout the first half, but I did just bet 7.5 Kansas City, and I'm looking right now actually at BetMGM 27.5 is the second half line. So if you want to go over, I think 27.5 is a great line there at BetMGM at -110, and I'm betting that right now.
Yeah. Where do you guys think, Raybon, you start? Better opportunity over the total of, say, 27.5, 28. I feel like I know what your answer is. Or Kansas City plus 7.5.
I mean, they're both equally great because for Kansas City to come back, the game's going to have to go to a high total. But, I mean, just think of it this way. Do you expect Kansas City to lose by more than a touchdown? If you do, then don't bet the 7.5. If you don't, then do what you got to do. Let's get this money.
Corner, where do you think the better opportunity is?
Well, I'm just letting it ride with Tampa Bay +3, and I'm looking at the stats. You know, they've only blitzed Mahomes 16% of the time, which is kind of where I thought they'd be. On the season, they've blitzed at a super high at 39%. So they're getting to Mahomes, only rushing 4 or fewer, and it's just crazy that Mahomes hasn't been sacked yet. I think that's, he's a magician when it comes to avoiding sacks, but I think they are going to be able to get to him in the second half. So I don't know. I think the Buccaneers are still, looking good in the second half. So I'm not looking to hedge and, take KC in the second half. I'm going to be rooting for the Bucs all the way here.
I am so over leveraged on over 4.5 sacks in this game.
One sack.
We got one sack. It was one sack in the first half, and it was like 4 minutes into the game. And Mahomes has been so close so many times.
Yeah.
And it like all I can hope for is that in the second half, the Chiefs do start to come back. They do start to make their way. Someone gets to Mahomes at least once or twice. Like there's just one of those coverage sacks where he's stuck in the pocket. He sort of just falls down. Someone taps him. I need someone to start getting to Brady. Like I cannot go into the second half where all of a sudden it's the Leonard Fournette campaign to win MVP.
Mm-hmm.
If they sack Brady, you know what's going to happen. 5-yard penalty.
Oh,
defensive
really?
holding.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. That is
Raybon's pulling out all the stops. I got it.
It does feel like there have been a lot of penalties that have bailed out
Oh, yeah.
the Bucs.
This hat flew like about 50 yards across my living room about 5 minutes ago, like 3 times, because there was 3 penalties that I just was really.
Which one was the
Freeman one where he just tripped him up, where he just like Evans and they just tripped.
Oh, yeah.
There's like a 40-yard penalty, and then the Matthew one at the 1-yard line was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, look, they just completely self-destructed in those last 55 seconds or whatever it was. That like the fact that they scored a touchdown on that was an abomination for the Kansas City defense. And Chris Jones losing his cool in the beginning with Ryan Jensen, like the players that they need to be performing the most on defense, Matthew and Jones, have just lost it in this first half.
Completely lost it. No, it was a terrible first half by their defense, and the defense is supposed to make a difference in this game because schematically, as we talked about it early, they have an advantage, but hasn't played out like that, and that could very well be the difference in this game already. Regardless of what happens in the second half, but we'll see. I still like KC. I think 7.5. I think you have to expect Kansas City to get this within 1 score.
All right, before we sign off, let me get from you guys. Do you have any total points scored for third quarter or fourth quarter that you're thinking about? Anyone?
Third quarter is 12.5, right?
Yep.
The fact that Casey does get the ball first, it probably does lead to the over here. I'm just assuming they're going to open up the second half with a touchdown. So like I said, I'm leaning towards the over on the second half here, but I'm hoping Tampa Bay can hang on and, seal the deal here.
All right, so what we got right now, a little bit of a roundup just because we're going to sign off so people can go figure out what they're doing for the rest of the halftime and get ready for the second half of the game. Raybon loves the Bucs, loves the Chiefs plus 7.5. Friedman loves the Chiefs plus 7.5. They are, doubling down on their Chiefs -3. Corner and I are sitting tight. We both liked the Bucks. One of us liked the Bucks on the money line. One of us is going to root for 4 more sacks in the second half. Evan, any props that like people need to be thinking about and looking out for that could sort of go their way in the beginning of the second half?
I mean, Kelsey's about to hit. When you're looking at it, Mike Evans is a ways away, 1 catch for 31 yards. So that's something that's going to come down the road. I think the thing you got to look at in the second half, and this is something I actually just bet, I like Fournette to score 3-1 second half. I think that's a good bet. I think, Tampa still leads. I have them to win the game. And I think at the end there, a little playoff Lenny touchdown. So see how it goes.
All right, folks, enjoy the second half. Thanks for sticking with us for Convince Me all season long. Thanks for joining us for the second half live betting show. We'll see you later.